These your questions are deep. Yeah.
Please think about it, so we'll go. How do you build a successful life, knowing that maybe the next month's paycheck, I don't know how much it would be or like when it will come?
The life of an entrepreneur requires embracing a high level of uncertainty.
One of the concepts I think about very often is the concept of failure. I want to talk through some of the ways that you have failed.
That's a great question, but I haven't failed that many times. I'm sorry. That's my honest answer. If I'm giving a task and I know that this needs to be done, I'm trying to do it as immediately as possible. Because if not, it piles quickly. Then you freeze, and then you feel anxiety, and then then you go down that road. And we've all been there, right? Which is why I've had to optimize in a way that allows me to shift quickly, right?
The one thing that you haven't touched much on is like your spirituality. Tell me about your relationship with God.
Wow. We're going there.
We're going everywhere.
My Christian views can be radical.
What is your current structure? These are the things that actually helps me, Adaora, to be able to do this and this and this and this. It might not work for anybody else, but I want to know what your structure is.
For me, it's a couple things. One is...
This episode is sponsored by Sendwave. You've been doing a lot of interviews recently.
Have I?
Like you interviewing people.
Okay, yes.
So how does it feel being
100%.
on this side of the table?
I think with you, it's like full circle.
Yeah.
Because we've had... the dynamics of our relationship has just evolved over the years, and to just kind of see you in that seat interviewing me is the same way I feel when I'm on set with Salem. I'm like, this is actually really
cool.
good. Yeah, it's very cool. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, so I feel comfortable.
Okay.
And I always think that if you're authentic about your journey, then you never really have to overthink what you're about to say.
So my first question is, of all the things you have done, the many careers, the many projects, which one is the one that you're most proud of?
Wow. Can I go with like all of it?
Let me help, right? There are three facets of the question.
Yeah.
One, the one that you're most proud of. Two, the one that changed you the most in case it's different. And three, the one that taught you the hardest lesson.
Yeah. Okay, so I for me, I'm most proud of like building my personal brand. It's interesting. It's not client work. It's not anything that I've built for anyone else. It's just going on my own personal journey, evolving over time, learning a lot about myself, doing the inner work, growing as a person, and just being able to build something that is timeless and that is strong and that people believe in. And I've been able to build community around that. So yeah, it would definitely be my personal brand. And it cuts across all the questions that you ask me because it's been the most fulfilling. It's also been the hardest because it requires a very high level of vulnerability, like being myself in the external world and being able to be okay with sharing the many facets of who I am as a person and being able to show the evolution of my journey. Like you're evolving and people are watching you evolve in real time. People are watching you change. People are watching me change my mind in real time about things I believed before and now I don't believe them, right? So yeah, it's definitely been that.
That makes sense. With the personal brand, right, I see how it cuts across like the question that I asked. But I think what has been the most interesting part of me watching your personal brand is the change that has happened.
Right.
And not being scared to just like, I'm done with that, I'm doing this today.
Yeah.
But that's hard. That's incredibly hard for people. When you're starting and stopping, like what goes through your mind? How do you carry yourself and carry like the authenticity, knowing that there's probably maybe people who don't understand, and maybe even you don't know how far the next thing will go, but you kind of want to dive in as well.
So I think, first of all, and we've had this conversation a little bit off camera, right? Is I really don't believe it's starting and stopping. So at the very foundation, I'm like, as a human being, we're meant to evolve. We're not meant to be static, right? And a lot of times the reason why we stay we frame ourselves in places where people understand us, right? Is because we're trying to perform, right? We're performing for an audience that we believe cannot contain the essence of who we are, right? So it's like, I don't want to express too much of myself because if I do, you won't understand it. And I don't want to spend time having to explain that to you. I think for me, because I understand that, I just allow myself to evolve. And by doing that, I give other people permission to also evolve and be themselves and kind of grow through that. So I think reframing it for myself, not as stopping, but as continuing, because we're journeying. If you think about life as a journey, you're going. And every chapter may look different. Some chapters may look the same. Some chapters will be different. And that's what makes the book interesting. Like imagine reading the same chapter of like the same information in a book in 12 chapters. You'd be like, I'm bored. This protagonist needs to do something. And I think about it as we're the protagonist of our story, right? And so you get to decide where that, like I want to lead you.
And you don't know where you're going to.
Yeah, like just follow me. Follow me as the protagonist and see what happens at the end. As Nigerians will say, I'm the boss. And let's see what happens at the end. So yeah, that's it for me.
What has changed most about you in, say, the last 10 years?
The last 10 years. Maybe for me, like pacing.
How do you mean?
Because in my earlier years, right, like I used to run, it's like sprinting. And now I've learned that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so I find ways to just pace myself with my work, with my personal life, with the things that are important to me, because I can't even afford burnout, right? I just can't. Like burnout is like, I can't afford it, especially because there's the responsibilities of work, yes, but there's also the fact that I'm a mother, right? So I don't have the luxury of, I'm going to sit in my room for 10 days in the darkness and feel down, right? I don't have that luxury. I got to get my kid ready for school the next morning. And so because of those dynamics, I've had to design a life that can actually sustain and build what it is that I'm trying to build, right? So, and that maybe only came in the last 6-7 years. Because I'm just very highly ambitious. And so I want to run all the time. Like when I have something, I'm like a wild horse, open up the stables and running, but you kind of start to learn to pace yourself and just learning that it's not about how fast you run. It's also about how far, especially if it's a marathon, right? Is you want to get far. And so that sustainability.
Was there something specific that changed where you felt maybe there was an experience and you're like, I think I need to take a different approach of start pacing myself?
100%. I had a health scare at some point. In fact, my music album, Heart Check, right, is based off of that. Because I actually recorded Heart Check right as I was experiencing the health issues, right? So I went through this period where I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was just sick. And I was sick to the point where at some point, like my heart actually stopped. And I had to see oncologists, I had to see cardiologists. Like I was going from one place to the next place, just trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Taking medication here and there and whatnot. And I remember just walking into one of the doctor's offices. He was like a top medical director in Nigeria. And he looked at me and he was like, listen, you can either make the decision, right, to keep going to try and figure out what's wrong with you, or you can kind of pace and go internally and see what's causing it, right? And that time, so Heart Check, the album, is based off of what I called me doing a spiritual arteriogram, which is where you now go inwards and you start to figure out like what is actually causing because there are a lot of things that happen to us internally that manifest as physical illness, right? And so during that period, I just knew that if I wanted to do what I'm doing long term, I needed to be able to be in a place where I'm taking care of my mind, body, and spirit. I would watch documentaries. In fact, back then I remember I had watched like the Tony Robbins documentary on Netflix, right? And I was like, you're speaking to, thousands and thousands of people on stage. I'm like, do you know what it takes to be able to run on stage like that for hours? It requires physical fitness. It requires mental fitness. And everything that I want to do, when I dream it and I envision it and I see myself in those spaces, a sick person can't do it. You just can't. There's just so much limitation, right, that happens with that. So yeah.
Makes sense. What are the most fundamental, pivotal parts of your life? Like what are when you think through the phases or the experiences, the singular experiences that has had the most impact on who you are today? Maybe like the top 3 or 4 today, and why?
That's a good question. So I think first of all, it would be growing up in the household that I grew up in, for sure, right? I do realize that when I share about authenticity and living a life of purpose, I also have the privilege of growing up in a household that allowed space and room for me to be wholly and fully who it is that I am, right? My parents were, in comparison to a lot of African households, my parents were actually quite liberal. I grew up in a household where I could question my father. Like, we could have conversations about something I don't agree with. I grew up in a household where, like, I was never hit, like, never ever. You know, when I tell my friends in school that my mother has never beat me, they don't understand it, right? And you know, you don't think about it when you're growing up, but as an adult, it's privilege, right? Because I also see how I was never stopped from expressing myself, and I was never stopped from being and doing and wanting to be anything. So for sure, that was highly pivotal to my journey. And till today, I always give my parents credit. When you enter into the world, like, the first layer, right, of what you experience and what molds you is family. It's the family unit, you know. Another pivotal moment for me was, I think I was in SS1 or SS2. Okay, so I was about 14. And I had this opportunity to represent Nigeria at the Global Young Leaders Conference in New York and DC. And it was like 250 scholars from across the world, you know, and here I am representing my country. I don't know why they chose me to, by the way, out of all the many Nigerian students that existed. But that's another beautiful thing about God and the universe, right? Is that there's some things that you may not feel qualified for, but they're part of your trajectory. Yeah. Like teenagers, you know, we went to New York. I was in New York, I was in DC for the conference. And one of the things that you do is that it's like mock United Nations. So you lead a particular country. And I was supposed to be like the Prime Minister of Norway. And they give you like tasks, right? At the time, my task was around like communicating global warming. As a teenager, right? And you have to and you sit in the actual chambers of commerce, and you actually have to convince people of what you believe. So it was my first foray into like speaking publicly in an environment where I had my thick Nigerian accent in comparison to some of the other students that were there. And I was like, I'm willing to, you know, thrive in this environment. I'm going to put in the effort, right, to actually make sure that my voice is seen. I didn't come all the way from Nigeria to come here and be sitting in the back, you know. And I think that pushed me into leadership, like very early, you know. I didn't come back the same. It was such a moment in my life because it changed the way that I saw leadership. It changed the way, and what I mean by that is, you know, being able to create a sense of belonging and connection with people in order to be able to convince them of what you believe. I was able to do that in that environment. And with that guidance, like, my leadership journey started. Like, right after that, when I got into university, I was president of African Students Association. I was vice president of International Students Association. I was vice president of Association of African Charities. Like, leadership was easy for me. It's funny because I was shy as a kid. You know what I mean? So there's some experiences that we have in life that just shape something for us. And that experience, as long ago as it was, like, it shaped something for me because it showed me possibility. It showed me possibility. It inspired me. It made me realize that, and I had an interview recently for Creatorium with Nicole Asinigo, and one of the things she said was that the reason why sometimes we're afraid to play in global spaces is because we think that global people are different.
But they're pretty much
the same, yeah. You know, so imagine as a child, as a teenager, like, going into a space and realizing that all these 250 scholars, they're not different from me that was sitting in Queen's College. Do you know what Queen's College is? Do you know what it means to go to QC? Like, you know what I mean? And holding your own confident.
Okay. Do you have more?
I mean, the last one for me would just be 2024, losing my brother, like, just the grief, right? I think that definitely shifted quite a bit for me because I lost my brother in the same week that I lost Z Space, right? Because we had built like the creative hub, and it was a dream, lifelong dream for me. And so just waking up, in fact, the morning that we were burying my brother was when I got the message from, someone just saying, just saying that, look, they're demolishing, no, so they gave us 3 days. So it was like, oh, we're demolishing because of the coastal road, right? And we hadn't even opened. So we had flown in things from, China, brought things into Nigeria, set it all up, and then we didn't even get to open, right? So it was, the reason why it was pivotal for me is that it shaped what has been the last 2 years, where, well, first of all, I'm unapologetic about like where I'm going. Even more, I've always been unapologetic, but now I'm even like 10x unapologetic. And two, with building Creatorium, we're still building the same thing that we built with Z Space, but it helped me to just kind of say, okay, instead of starting with the physical space,
something else we could do.
Let's start with the other parts of the ecosystem and build into the physical space. So yeah.
Let's talk about your brother a little bit then,
Yeah.
since you brought it up. How has the last 2 years been without him? How are you managing?
I don't know if I'm managing. Am I coping? Yes.
Coping.
Yeah, it's hard. I have good days. I have not so great days. I think I've figured that grief is a lifelong journey, and you kind of you just live with it. It just never really goes, because I can sit somewhere and hear a song that reminds me of him because it's a song that he likes, you know what I mean? Or I can be in a conversation, with someone, and they'll say something about him, based on an experience they had, and that would remind me, right? So it never really goes. There's some things that I wish he experienced just in the past 2 years. We always had this running conversation, right? Since like university, where he used to say, Adaora, the thing about you is that you're like a basketball. You bounce, 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 but next thing you just enter the net. People will be looking at you and say, she's bouncing. We don't know what she's doing. We don't know until it enters the net, And sometimes I want to tell him that I've entered the net multiple times in 2 years. In just 2 years. So yeah, but it's hard, but it's also beautiful to reflect on his journey. I just have gratitude for him having lived, in the ways that he lived, and I cling on to the beautiful parts of his life, that I got to experience. What you experience and it's not his charismatic self or like the work and like that's what the external world gets to experience. I got to experience the love, right? So I hold on to that. Like that's my experience of who he is. I don't care what anybody, has experienced on business side or whatever. Like that's all exciting, but like this is my brother, whom I love. And who loves me? That's it. He used to always say, people used to say, there's no way you go that, Gian will not say to you, do you know my sister? Like it was a thing. Or people will walk up to him and be like, I know you're Adora's brother. And he'll be like, yes, she's my only sister. So yeah.
Does that make you see the world differently now?
I don't know if I would say it makes me see the world differently, because I've always been quite mindful of my morbidity as a human. Right from when I was a kid, interestingly.
How so?
Peace, I feel like I'm an old soul. There are a lot of things I experienced as a child that, when I share, sometimes it just seems impossible. Like even when I say, for example, that I've literally been this, what you call serious. I've been this serious since I was a child. Like there is...
with all the leadership positions, of course.
Since I was a little kid, I think my view, again, I believe my family shaped and framed my worldview to a large extent. And my worldview is built on the foundation of love. I'm blessed to have received it very early. I'm blessed to have experienced the power of what it can do. Like, You know, when I was a kid, my mom, my mom even had friendships with people who were mentally, you know, you know what I mean? Like people who had mental retardation that were on the road. Like my mom, you'll be driving and the woman that is considered the mad woman on the road, she knows my mother because my mom takes care of her. Not just money. My mom will come out of the car, cook food for her, come and give it to her. Like we used to joke that my mom should run for local government chairman in the area that we lived because she was just that person, right? And it didn't matter, like it was diverse, so it didn't matter who they were, you know, what they were about. Like in fact, when I was in boarding school, when I was in Queen's College, and I was in boarding school for a bit, while I was in boarding school, the boarders whose parents didn't come to pick them up used to come and stay in my house. Like they would stay in our house, you know, because their mom is maybe their family is in Port Harcourt or something like that, and they can't pick them up in Lagos. Our home was always open like that, even up until 5 years ago. Like a lot of my friends who moved back from the US to Nigeria, my mother was doing their laundry. When they moved back to Nigeria, they'll stay at my parents' house for a period of time. My mom would do laundry, my mom would take care of it. I wasn't there, but someone who my parents don't even know is living in my parents' house for that period, right? So I've experienced that. I know what it can do. I've seen people, and these people I'm talking about are people who are now executives. Do you know what I mean? But I've seen how just giving people a foundation to breathe and to grow and jump off matters, right? So I've always had that viewpoint. So I don't feel like my brother's, you know, passing, you know, the grief of that necessarily changed that much. I think if anything, it emphasized that we do have a limited time here. We gotta make the best.
But they're not run.
The what?
I said, but not to run.
Yes.
Still
just pace, but allow, I don't know, just allow yourself to just live in and with love, with everything, and not just on the personal side. Like people reserve those things to the personal side, but even with whatever you're building, like, why do I want to build something that I'm not, that I don't feel, you know what I mean, good energy from just because I want to be founder? Can't be me.
You've been a founder multiple times though. There's curriculum, there's Socially Act,
Socially Africa.
There was the agency. That's actually when I met you.
Yeah.
There's been different things in between, right? But I think a core part of you has always just sort of done the creative world and the consulting world.
Yeah.
That a few people or some people might look as it's not always stable. You don't always know what to expect. It could be this project and that project. Like, how do you build a successful life, knowing that maybe the next month's paycheck, I don't know how much it would be or like when it will come. How have you managed to like go from, okay, I know what I'm building anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to be able to hold still even the times when it's hard. And what has been the most successful project you've had? Like, if you're going to explain to someone how easy it is or that it is possible to make this amount of money, what reference would you give them to say, hey, I did this, like this is how much or how far you could actually go?
These your questions are deep. Yeah.
Pace, think about it, so we'll go.
I'll first of all just start by saying that entrepreneurship, the life of an entrepreneur, requires embracing a high level of uncertainty. If you can't embrace uncertainty, you can't be an entrepreneur, right? Even crazier is you can't be an entrepreneur on the African continent if you're afraid of uncertainty. And I think embracing that early for me has been definitely, you know, a huge part of how I've been able to operate, right? When I first moved back to Nigeria, I moved back to Nigeria in 2009. And yes, I am that old. When I first moved back to Nigeria...
How great is it that you don't look it?
I'll take it. It's pacing. We're pacing, that's why. But yeah, when I first moved back to Nigeria, you know, it's interesting. Like you know the first thing I ever did when I came here? Do you know what I ever did? Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit of that and it will lead into answering the question. But the first thing I did when I came back to Nigeria is I was trucking granites and cement, right? At that time, they were building the Ekpe areas, which the areas you now know as Dangote Refinery and all those areas, right? There's still a lot being built there. And I got this contract without having trucks, by the way. so entrepreneurial mind. I came here, I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure out, what it is that I can do and how I can make money. To be honest, at the time, my priority was probably more money than even like mission work or anything like that. And I had this conversation with, this group of people. It was a company. And they said, oh yeah, we need someone that can like transport granite and cement, to at the time it was like the free trade zone areas. And I bid for the contract. I didn't have any trucks. I went to Badagry. You know where Badagry is? I went to Badagry. I was looking for babas on the road, because when you go to Badagry that time, there were like trucks parked on the road. I needed about 12 trucks, right? To do multiple rounds a day, and you get paid per trip. So back then, like, you get paid per trip. So the amount of trips that you do, and it was a lot of money at the time, and I went to convince these babas that I needed all of them to show up at a particular location on a particular day, because this company needed to inspect. So they needed to inspect to be sure.
Trucks.
To be sure that I had trucks. I didn't lie. I didn't say they were my trucks. I said, I'm going
to
truck for you. So I got all these guys to show up. In fact, it was a location in Surulere that we had to go and park the trucks, right? And they came for inspection, looked at it, everything. I said, okay, let's start trucking, right? So that was the first business I ever did in Nigeria, was trucking. And I was making really good money at that time.
How much?
It was plenty. It was plenty for me, because I was 20... Maybe I was like 23. I think I was like 23 at the time. So for a 23-year-old, it was nice, It was nice enough to buy a car. That's nice, right? And a little bit more. But I think, again, the uncertainty of that is that you're not sure, if your contract is going to be renewed. You're not sure what's going to happen on the road. You're not sure, what's going to happen with this business. Like, there's just so much, So I think for me, I really got comfortable with that uncertainty over time. And I just believe, like, you got to play, you got to choose what game you're playing. Like, that's the thing with life, right? Is choose what game you're playing and play it to the best of your ability. I've been able to design a life where I have multiple skills that are monetizable at any point in time. So yes, I am building a business that is sustainable, right? That is currently revenue generating and is doing what it needs to do. But I also consult, right? And that's something I can always do. And I also monetize my art. I monetize like other aspects of my life that are, hobbies, but are also quite lucrative in their own ways. Speaking to, for example, the question you asked, it's interesting because one of the biggest checks that I saw was from my art. People don't know that.
You need to tell me how much so that we can contextualize
it was drawing, over 6 figures, like, no, not over 6 figures, but 6 figures in dollars, right? But multiple 6 figures, right? For an art piece. And I created it in like 6 days. I'm not saying that that's what I'm making now. I'm just saying.
It's a disclaimer for me.
It's a disclaimer, yes. But I think it just kind of taught me again that, you don't have to create a box around what you believe is monetizable. Sometimes some of our gifts will surprise us in different ways, which is why I also believe in just like expressing your gifts to the best of your ability, because I always say that not everything needs to be monetized. You should have things that are just like hobbies and things you just enjoy doing and you're just passionately doing them. But leave room, right, for the things that will get you paid really well, that may feel like, because they come easy to you, they're not the thing. Like you're like, oh, I'm a good writer, I can write, but yeah, it's not a thing, you know. But then you get a project where you're primarily on that project as a writer, and you're making a ton of money just writing on that project. Sometimes I feel like we're so caught up in where we believe that the money should come from. Like you're like, oh, it's this business. If this business doesn't make it, you know what I mean? Like, then I'm a failure. But there are many ways to get to the same goals that you have.
Hey guys, a little intermission break and we'll get back to the story. So I moved to the UK a few years ago, and one of the most interesting parts of my life has been travel. Going to US, to Canada, different parts of the UK, coming back to Nigeria, and also traveling to other parts of Africa. And when you travel this much, money is always part of the question. It's always a concern. What you're spending, where you're converting. And a lot of times I'm always thinking, what am I sending back home? And so it's been very important to find a product that I can rely on across borders every single time in every country. That's why I'm happy to recommend SendWave. It allows you to send money from the US, Canada, UK to Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, and other African countries very fast and very easy. All you have to do is sign up, link your debit card, verify your identity, and voila, you're good to go. You also get real-time updates, so you can track your transfer every step of the way. SendWave is currently being used by over 1 million users, and when you actually try the product and send money from it, you will get why so many people use it. If you want to try it out, sign up, use a promo code FoundersConnect. That's right, FoundersConnect. And when you send your first transfer, you get $10 or £10, depending on what country you're sending from. The code is FoundersConnect, and the link is in bio. Now, let's get back to this juicy story. I'm having so much fun in this interview.
So you think the uncertainty is easier if you're able to express as much of you as possible to be able to attract different revenue sources?
I like your English. you said it. That's it. That's it. You know, I think when you're not focused so much on the outcome, like when you don't zoom in so much to an outcome.
How do you not focus on the outcome when you're hustling? When you're like, I need to like fill my car.
Yeah.
I need to like pay rent. Okay, rent in Nigeria is yearly, but like in the UK, I need to pay next month's rent.
Yeah.
Like I need to feed my kid.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like the hustle is real. Like I need something now.
Yeah.
And if I start expressing myself, bro, what if that expression takes 2 years? Like, do you get what I mean?
But you're already in the position. The fact that you're having this conversation, you're having these questions, right? Of I need to, you're already in the position. You can't drop worse than where you currently are. Like you're already there, right? Fair. So what you're doing by expressing more is you're actually creating more potential opportunities because you're planting more seeds. Versus looking at the 5 seeds and being like, you must sprout. It's like you put the thing there like every day, you must sprout. If you don't sprout by next week, you know, like sometimes you're putting pressure on those seeds. And I'm like, no, I would rather plant more. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather plant more and know that, yeah, I've already planted those 5 that I'm watering anyways, you know, so why can't I have another 10 that are planted, right? But of course, the thing also is that energy is finite, as I always say, right? So you also have to know that, you know, you have to be able to then design and create your life in a way that can allow you to be and do those things. So people look at my multipotentiality and they're like, oh, I want to be like Adaora. Week 2, you're burnt out. I'm not scrolling TikTok for 7 hours. Just what I mean, I'm using 2 hours out of your 7 hours that you've used to scroll TikTok. I'm using 2 hours to do deep work. You know, so my level of discipline cannot be, like I know that I cannot afford the luxury of not living a somewhat structured life. I just can't. If I want to be able to do the things that I'm doing and still pace, right? It means that I'm very mindful of how I live and what I do. And it may feel sometimes, like if you come into my world, you may, maybe not you, I won't use you as an example because, you know, you're actually quite disciplined, but
I try.
Yeah, no, you do try. There's no way you can create the things you do if you don't have some level of discipline. But for most people, if they come into my life, they may feel for them, they may see some rigidity. But what they would see as rigidity is sustainability for me. Do you know what I mean?
I feel that.
It's what works for me.
Yeah.
So I can't play with it, you know, because yeah.
I'm glad we're talking about this because we are entering into some of the questions that I had. And my mind is split in two ways. One of it is I want to come back to the multipotentiality and talk about like focus and where that comes in. But the other part is around balance, right? Because you're right. To be able to do multiple things, whether it's 2 things or 3 or 10 or whatever it is, you need some structure, right? Otherwise, you're going to burn out. Otherwise, you won't even give the best to each of them, right?
Yeah.
So what is your current structure? What helps? Like very realistically from like a day to day, these are the things that you say, oh, these are the things that actually helps me, Adaora, to be able to do this and this and this every day. It might not work for anybody else, but I want to know what your structures are.
For me, it's a couple things. One is I'm very, like, I have a ship out culture. Like, I don't like things to pile, right? Like, if I'm giving a task and I know that this needs to be done, I'm trying to do it as immediately as possible, right? As immediately as possible. Just get off the plate, because if not, it piles quickly. And when it piles, then you freeze, and then you feel anxiety, and then you feel, then you go down that road. And we've all been there, right? Which is why I've had to optimize in a way that allows me to ship quickly, right? So that's number one, is I look at it like a plate. I'm like, this thing is piling so much I can't, so I try to get things out as quickly as possible. The other thing for me is like delegation, is I've also learned to lean into my people. And build the systems for the people to be able to do it at the levels that I expect, because I do have very high standards. And over the years, I've had to create the systems and structures within every single aspect of what I'm building so that people can operate at those high standards as well, because if not, I'll be frustrated, right? So I don't have to think about whether it's getting done or how it's, or whether something has been posted today, or I just see it when I see it. So I'm actually quite proud of the systems that we've built. The other thing, again, is like time management. Is, as I said, I try not to be mindless in consumption. Does not mean that I don't consume when I just want to consume, right? But I try to be very conscious of even what I'm consuming. Like if you look at my Explorer page, for example, probably just say fitness. Like I'm sure like all the people who are creating workout videos there, like, I'm the one giving them all the views. Like you see things that reflect what is most important to me. So I don't even have
Mine
the
is
distraction.
Just food, by the way.
I love it.
Healthy food, but
I love it. You know what I mean? But does it not help you to eat better?
Stay on track, yeah.
It does, right? Yeah. It does. So yeah, like, just kind of curating your world in a way that works for you, I mean, the last part for me with balance is just leaning into community. Like I have a, solid group of friends. I think also, they say birds of the same feather, the kind of friends that you keep, the kind of people around you. The people that I have around me are people who are always challenging my thinking and who share very similar worldviews to me, and who are, like right now we're doing, on the fitness side, we're doing 75 hard. And it's me and a bunch of my friends, right? So every day everyone's posting their workouts, everyone's posting what books they're reading. Like, you can call us nerds, but you know what? It works. I'm just like, it works. Yeah, so it's those things. And everybody that is around me, I kid you not, even like my EA. Like my EA is a type of person. Everybody's a type of person, because I just can't. I'm sorry, like I'm not a snob, but I can't afford. I just can't afford to let certain things into my space. I can't. Yeah. I think you get to a point in your life, and maybe, I'm turning 40 this year as well, right? So, in fact, I was messaging a friend 2 days ago, and I was saying to her, I said, I'm now one of those people who says I'm 40, so.
The experience has to show.
Just like, you just keep saying, I'm 40, I can't afford to do certain things. It's a real thing, it's a real thing. I think you just get to a certain point in life where it's like, the only way you can live happily, joyfully, and sustainably is to be able to curate your life and guard it with all your heart and might, and that's what I do.
When was the last time that you felt like your authenticity was being threatened? Like an experience that maybe you have to think, I know this is who I am, but I wish I could, not be this person. I wish I didn't have to hold tight to these my values. And how do you handle it? I ask because it's very easy to say I'm always authentic. It's very easy to claim that, but authenticity and living it out every day, it's really hard, especially when you live in a country or in a world like ours, where at every given time rather, there might be somebody who's acting differently, a different path that seems easier, just kind of go through. But then you want to really say, no, I'm the kind of person who does this, who says this. Sometimes it's hard to reconcile. So tell me the last time it happened, but typically, how do you deal with it? How do you handle it? How do you remain your authentic self?
You know why I like this question?
Why?
Because you asked it and you answered it. I live in Nigeria. My authenticity is threatened every day. It's threatened every day. Like, if you choose integrity as a pathway, for example, right? Every day you see the people who are not, people of integrity thriving, right? I mean, you're going into spaces and you're like, sorry, I just had a thought. I just recently had a conversation and found out that some people who were on a panel, a global panel, had actually paid to be on the panel representing Nigeria. And I just remember being like, I'm upset because we're in the creative economy doing the work. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're in the creative space, you've been doing this work for so many years, and sometimes you question, like, why am I not invited to this particular space? You don't realize that the people who are in that space paid to be in that space, and that's why they're in that space, And the question is, do you go down the route of victimhood and be like, oh, but I'm, or do you build your own table? And I think just channeling it into that. So authenticity is hard. The last time I experienced it was every day, was yesterday, was this morning, was all the time, is all the time.
Yeah.
But it's also a choice. And they say, there's that proverb that says, as you make your bed, so you shall lie on it, and you have to be okay with all that comes. When you make a choice with anything in life, you must be okay with everything, the good and the bad and the ugly and the consequence of the choice that you make. So before I make a choice on anything, I've weighed all the options. Before I choose to show up a particular way, I've weighed all the possibilities of it. I've weighed what people are going to say, what they're going to think, how they're going to react, right? So we recorded an episode with Mavens, right? A special episode with Don Jazzy, Ira Star, and Johnny Drill, right? Now, when that episode airs, the first thing that you realize is that, first of all, there's growth. So I look at it and I say, oh, this is going to open us up to a wider audience, but it's also going to open us up to a lot of trolls. It's going to open us up to people who don't understand Creatorium and do not understand the level of thinking that we, at which we create, right? And so I'm going to wake up and see all sorts of comments, and I have to be okay with that, because that's growth. So what is growth? What looks like growth for you also requires you understanding that there's consequences to the growth.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it comes with the territory, and I think more people need to lean into choosing authenticity, no matter how hard it is, because it is hard, and we can't lie that it's easy. It's hard.
I agree.
It's hard. So yeah, but we do it. Look at you now. You're like, this is who I am. This is how I am. I'm going to wear slippers on my show. If you guys,
are you trolling me?
You're like, if
I take that as a troll.
You're like, if you guys don't like it,
like
switch, right?
Take it like that.
Yeah. Like we have to, you have to live your life, man. You only get this shot once. We joke with like YOLO. You only live once, but it's a fact.
Yeah.
A lot of us act like we're rehearsing. Like, oh, this one, after this life, the next life. And, we even reference it. Sometimes people will say, oh, yeah, in my next life, I will become. In my next life, I will do. There's no next life, baby. Like this is it.
Yeah.
If you don't do and become those things in this life, that's the end of it.
Yeah. So I don't know if I've ever told you this, but the most impactful thing that has happened to me because of following you has to do with how you dress. So this was, I think, 2017, 2018, I just moved to Lagos fresh. I was still a baby. I'm still a baby now anyway. Baby girl for life. And I started having to, like, so at that part of my career, I was teaching a lot, I was speaking a lot, and I felt like I needed to present a certain way to be like taken seriously. So I have these pictures from like a couple of months where I started wearing dresses.
Right.
And I was speaking one day and I looked fantastic, but I remember feeling uncomfortable because I had to, like, you know, be doing my outfit to make sure I look good. And then I can't remember how I found you, but I just started studying. And I used to wonder, if Adaora can do this, like, I should be able to, right? And I don't know if we ever talked about it, but I ended up seeing a post where you talked about like wearing suits, wearing matching socks, I think with your ex at the time, and, you know, going into boardrooms. And I was like, you know what? Okay. we're just gonna go, right? And obviously we're in the same pants now, so kind of worked out for me. But whenever I think about that, I kind of always reference that as a form of authenticity. But there's also a part of me that remembers the person who felt like I probably would get things will be harder because of how I present, right? Things will be harder because when you don't look like the norm or you don't speak like the norm or your experience doesn't fit what the room is expecting, then you have to try a lot harder, right? I say this from, I was watching you and it felt like you had figured it out. But I wonder if there was a time where you hadn't figured it out. Like it was still new and you were still, did you ever have that experience? And what got you to be like, yeah, it doesn't matter what room I walk into, I'm going to be this person, and then I will let, you know, I feel like I'm about to answer my question, so I'm going to...
It's okay.
And then let you like go from there.
So first of all, thank you for sharing that. I think we did talk about it at some point because I had a few snippets of it in my book, This Thing Called Purpose, right? And it's for stories like that, right, that I decided to step into my light fully in the ways that I express, right? Because one of the things I found on this journey of even just like the way that I present is energy is contagious. Are there times that I look at, like, you know, are there rooms that you walk into and you're like, yeah, if I was extremely feminine in my presentation, like I would totally kill this room.
Do the hair.
Like, you know what I mean? Like I would 10x this thing in like 2 weeks. If it even still happens when I post a picture of myself looking extremely feminine. I get the most views. Like I'll wake up and just be like, wait, y'all love this picture? Like, you know what I mean? Like I'll get the most views because that's just the world, right? That's the structure of the world. But is that me? Not necessarily. Is that me? Yes, that is me because I am both feminine and, you know, masculine in my energy. But is that me majority of the time? No. Can I live in that framing majority of the time just to please everyone? No, I'm not going to do it. And for the people who feel like they have to do it, you know, to be able to show them the possibility, possibility of just living a life that is different, you know, and different is uncomfortable to a lot of people. But this is why I said energy is contagious, because sometimes when you walk very boldly and proudly in your light, like people accept what they didn't want to accept before.
True.
It's just what it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'll walk into somewhere, I'll sit on a panel and like, the nuggets I'm dropping are just so strong. They're just so strong that everybody, we joke about this, like, you know, internally as well. Like, you know, me and my executive creative assistant, we always talk about how every time I sit on a panel, the moment I'm done speaking, like, I kid you not, every panelist or most panelists will say, like Adaora said. I said I was going to make a T-shirt that says like Adaora said because it's a thing. And I'm not even saying this from an egoic place, but it's just, for me, right, it means a lot because I'm like, yeah, you know, because my thoughts are not normal. So when when I'm on a panel and the panel is going in a particular direction and then the microphone comes to me and I go here and I go far left and then everybody starts saying, like Adaora said, you know, I'm like, that's it. Elevating. I want to elevate human consciousness. I want people to stop and think and say, am I just sitting on this panel and regurgitating what I think that everybody wants to hear? Or am I sitting here and authentically, you know, presenting what I truly believe in? And it's the same with my appearance. I want to, whether I'm speaking, whether I'm, you know, showing up wherever, I want to always speak through who I am, how I look, what I'm saying. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to speak through all facets of me to make people pause and think and question what their beliefs are.
So,
Yeah.
one of the concepts that I think about very often is the concept of failure.
Yeah.
And because, well, everything that you do has a possibility that might not go well. And there's a courage that it requires to be like,
100%.
I'm going to do it anyway. But I think that when you have a brand, when you have a personal brand, when you're in public eye, people tend to always attribute you and your brand to some level of success. I'm seeing the things like the way Adaora talks, the way she looks, all the projects she has done, all the pictures, the outfits, everything just seems fantastic, you know? And there is a lot of inspiration and learning to get from it.
Yeah.
But sometimes there might be people who feel the other side of pressure, like, I don't know if I have what it takes to be able to execute like that. Maybe it's a special breed of people. So I want to talk through some of the ways that you have failed, right? Other ways, like it was a personal commitment you made to yourself, and I wasn't just disciplined enough at that particular time, or projects that didn't quite work out. Because I think it's important for people to be able to see the not so shiny side and be able to just learn from the experience, not what I learned from my experience that I'm telling you, but just the raw. I had this experience that Adaora had, and I was like, damn, it clicks for me.
Yeah. That's a great question. It's one of the questions I like to ask when I'm speaking with people. I always go into like the failure, but I haven't failed that many times. I'm sorry. That's my honest answer. That's my actual honest answer. And I know it's crazy, right? But it's not, and maybe again, let me say it this way, right? It's maybe because I don't view failure the way that most people view it, right? It's very hard for me to look at the things I've done and label them as failures, you know, even where it didn't work out in the way that I imagined or anticipated it. You know, will there be times that I plan a project, it doesn't go as I anticipate? 100%, you know. Some people argue that I maybe suffer from what is called toxic positivity, and that's their viewpoint. But again, you got to choose what works for you, right? I don't really see things in that way of I failed, right? I'm always like, okay, there's a lesson to be learned here. You know, let's learn the lesson and then let's show up the next day and do it differently, right? And again, I feel like that's the ebbs and flows of life. Like that's the beauty of life. The beauty of life is not zooming so much into wanting to win, but rather like being, you know, like when you're being, right, there's no like, I don't think I have that many, let me put it this way, I don't think I have that many targets in life. Like people have targets, like they're like, I have to get to this. If I don't get to this, I'm a failure.
Yeah, but for everything that you want to do, right, there's a certain outcome. Like you're building the business right now, arteriogram. There is an image, there is an ambition that you're trying to like get to. There's a mission, right? That has an outcome attached to it. You have a viewpoint of, if it works, this is what it could look like. If it doesn't work, this might be how it would look like, or these are the other ways, right? So it's more around when the moment where the fantastic outcome of what it could look like didn't quite work. So maybe there was an alternative. Maybe the alternative was like I learned something, you know, blah, blah, blah.
And I'm cool. So I'm fine with the alternative. so that's what I'm trying to say, right? And that's, again, I'm speaking for myself, right? I can't speak for others. I understand your question. And I understand that I can answer it in a way that pleases everybody, right? Because all I need to do is just tell you that there was this particular time when I failed and then that's how I feel. But that would not qualify how I view the world. It just wouldn't. So I don't want to sit here and go with the easy part of saying this is where I failed and that's how it worked, you know, because I really believe that our entire lives are built around how we see life. How you see life is going to determine your success or your failure. How you see life is the people that we go up to and say, this guy is a failed musician. He's a failed musician to you. If you ask him, he's not a failed musician. He's playing his guitar on the beach, right?
Having the time of his life.
And having the time of his life.
Yeah.
So sometimes I feel like we try to force our perspective of contentment, of success, of, what we believe is the optimal outcome on other people. And maybe that's why sometimes we look into their lives and we judge their lives based on what we want. For me, it's different, right? So the example you gave, for example, I'm like, okay, we're Creatorium, we have a mission, this is where we're going, right? And that's where we're trying to go. But if we go this way, I'm fine. Like, there's no part of me that is like, if we don't go here. And I think it shows in my work. Because people can see heart in my work. People can see soul in the work that I create. Because it's never only data focused. I'm not like the data is important to me, 100%. Like it's important. Like, do you know what I mean? But I'm not like A plus B plus C. If it doesn't work like this, I'm like, please, let's be going. And
figure it out something.
And I found it to be the most beautiful way to build anything. Because I end up now being on journeys that I didn't even anticipate at the beginning, but have now become crucial parts of the work that I do. So yeah, I think failure is part of the journey, but you have to reframe what that looks like for you in order to be able to continue to build.
Do you feel the same way about mistakes? Like things where you're just like, I should have made a different decision?
Mistakes require accountability and ownership. Like, I'm not going to brush a mistake under the carpet, because if you do that, then you don't learn from them. You don't learn and grow from the mistakes. So 100%, I acknowledge the mistakes. And in fact, I think a key part of leadership is being able to acknowledge your mistakes. And we see this all the time, right? Sometimes it's mistakes, sometimes it's experimental, and that's why with leadership requires accountability, because you're like, I'm going to experiment by all means. I've decided this is what the thumbnail is going to be, even though I know that all the experts have said that, this is not what the thumbnail should be, right? And I'll experiment with it, and it will not do as well as I thought it was going to do, And I'll be like, yeah, my bad. But the thrill of having tried it is just beautiful. I would rather make the mistake than not. And it's a huge part of the way that I lead as well. With my teams, I always prefer that they make the mistakes. Some mistakes are more costly than the others, but they need to be made in order to learn, So yeah.
Makes sense. Let's go back to the multi-potentialite conversation. So there's this very popular saying that focus is a force multiplier. So when you set your mind on something and you focus on it, you put more energy in it, so it tends to, or it could potentially go much faster, better, all of that stuff. But when you're a multi-potentialite, what that typically means is that you have the ability to do many things.
Yeah.
You're good at many things, and sometimes you express that simultaneously. How do you reconcile, I have many interests, I can do many things, and I'm probably doing many things, but I also know that I need to focus. Like, it feels counterintuitive to say I'm focused, but I have 3 different things that I'm doing.
So the focus is not about the expression. The focus is about the mission, right? With what I do, I have only one mission, right? My mission is to elevate human consciousness, right? My mission is to help everybody become the best versions of themselves in whatever way, shape, or form. Now, my expressions, right, could be in different forms, right? The skills that I have, the talents that I have, the gifts that I have, right? Those are all ways through which I can express that one focused mission. But if you look at everything that I do, there's a philosophical heartbeat. There's a thread that runs, there's nothing I do that is scattered, that is you look at it and it's disjointed. They're like, Adaora isn't here. She said, if you look at if you actually sit down and look at every single thing I do, they're all woven into each other, right? We did Lagos Street Art Festival in December, right? Highly successful project. But because Socially Africa, right, my impact project is something that's important to us, we also had Socially Africa integrated into Lagos Street Art Festival, right? How's Creatorium giving back? Creatorium is giving back through Socially Africa, right? Everything is connected. The creators that showed up to create content at Lagos Street Arts Festival came from Creatorium community. So it's an ecosystem, right? So I look at myself as an ecosystem builder. My multipotentiality allows me to build in that way because I can see, it's like pattern recognition. I can see the patterns. I can see how they all weave into each other. So it's not disjointed. It's not scattered. It's focused to me. To the outside world, it doesn't feel like focus. But for me, it feels very much focused, you know, and how I express it different. And we already talked about how, in order to be able to do that, you do have to have a high level of discipline. There's this misconception that people who are multipotentialites are not disciplined, and I debunk that. Are there people who are not disciplined who just want to jump around? 100%, I agree. You know, but like my brother said, right? You bounce the ball. Adaora is the one that's going to enter the rim, right? And I take pride in that. You know, I think I like how my 40-year-old self is coming out in this conversation, you know, because there were times when I used to downplay my superhero-ness. You know, like I used to find ways to make it so that I don't, so it doesn't feel like I'm egoic. You know, it's like, oh, she's not, I don't want it to feel like she's egotistical. So let me try and sound like, now I'm just like, I'm actually a superhero. like, can we just accept that? Like, you know what I mean? And it's not just me, you know? So again, the relatability for why it's important for me to relate in the way that I do with people is because I want them to know that they can do it too. I want them to know that it's not special, that it was built, it was created. I wasn't born this way, you know, and that's why I share a lot of my stories and I share a lot of my process and things like that, because I want people to see. I want them to see me when I'm sitting down and saying, guys, I've been working since morning. So don't follow me play, because I've been working since morning.
You have to go and work too.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
The one thing that you haven't talked or touched much on is like your spirituality. But I know that you are spiritual. Like God is an essential part of your journey.
Yeah.
But we haven't talked much about it. So like, let's talk about it. Like, tell me about your relationship with God and all the different ways in which it shows up.
Wow. We're going there.
We're going everywhere.
We're going there. You know, so the way I view spirituality and faith is I always want my life to be an expression of my beliefs, right? My belief in God and God's hand upon my life, right? I never want to sit, and the reason why I don't sit in interviews and go, you know, so the Holy Spirit now did this, so God now did that, is because I just don't feel the need to, I want you to look at my life and be like, nah, this person is Christ-like, right? This person is God-like, right? Because of the way I express my life and the type of person I am. I don't want to have to say it to you, right? Because you can skew people's opinions by saying it. You know, if I'm here sitting down and saying, so God now did this, or God now did that. It's like, yes, there's people that I understand, see it as a way to be an ambassador for what they believe in, you know, but I don't even want to taint your perception by saying that, by bringing God into the conversation. I want you to look at me and ask yourself, is it not God? Do you know what I mean? Like, I want you to look at my life and be like, nah, man, the way this chick moves in love, you know, God is love, and he that dwells in love dwells in God and God in him, right? That's John 4:16, not like this 3:16.
Put a scripture just in case you're wondering.
But, you know, like that's the expression. So what's my relationship with God? My relationship with, I don't have the perspective of only having a relationship with God the Father. I think that as Africans, we're taught to see God as God the Father only. And the problem with that is that we have a lot of traumatic relationships with African fathers. So God the Father is the guy that flogs you when you're wrong. God the Father is the guy that shouts at you, right? And a lot of, unfortunately, as Africans, right, that's our relationship a lot of times, is God the Father, the guy that is just looking at my moves and being like, you did the wrong thing. go and sit in the corner type thing. I think I have more of a relationship with God the friend, and I lean more into that relationship. And my framing of God the Father, because I grew up with an earthly father that was love, is love, right? I also don't have the perspective of God as this guy that is going to flog me. And so, yeah, like I lean more into God the friend. And what that means is that I allow for the relationship to hold space. So there are times where I can be like, yeah, I love you. But there are times where I can be like, man, you messed up, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, like, what are you doing on this one? like this matter, can you not see that I'm suffering? You know what I mean? Like, why are you not fixing this? But like, or you know what, I don't even want to hear from you right now. And I'm not ashamed of that relationship, because it just works, like it's a beautiful experience of God. And yeah, like even from a leadership perspective, right? A lot of the leadership principles that I learned was through my pastor, Sam Adeyemi, right? I've been a member of Daystar since I was 16 or 15 or 16, and if you understand how Dr. Sam Adeyemi works, right? He's a very leadership-centric person. He's very disciplined. He's very systems-oriented. He's very structured in the way that he builds and creates things. It would not be hard if I said I went to Daystar and I've been going to Daystar since I was 16. Like, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? So again, the way that I see God and the way that I relate with God has also informed the spiritual spaces in which I exist. Do you know what I mean? So I may not necessarily be interested, for example, in going to a place of worship that is more miracle centric, and I know that, like, I'm not saying that's wrong, but people choose what works for them, but I want to be in a place that is focused on how you lead in life, because that's something that is important to me, right, on my spiritual journey as well. So yeah, spirituality is a necessity. I feel like it guides a lot. We're talking about integrity earlier, just how we live in an environment where integrity is not always rewarded, and the reason why I can like continue to move in a place of integrity is because, again, that relationship is important to me. I don't want to jeopardize it, by moving away from my value system just because it's financially rewarding or it's going to give me some sort of an edge over someone or something. Like, nah, I would rather I'd rather keep my friendship with God because that's respect for the friendship. Like, friendship is, again, depends on how you view friendship. Like, for me, friendship is something that is very important. So, yeah.
I like the answer.
Yeah.
Would you say you're more spiritual than Christian or more Christian than spiritual?
Both, actually. Both. And maybe because, again, I mean, this is not a faith-based podcast.
No, but
yeah,
we're talking about your life.
Listen, my views, my Christian views can be radical, okay? And I don't talk about them publicly that much, just because I don't feel the need to try and convince anybody of anything. I've spent a lot of time unpacking theology, right? I've spent a lot of time understanding the Bible historically, right? Why are certain things said the way that they are? What does that mean? When you're talking about Job, right? Who was Job, right? Why was he in this particular situation? What was happening around him? What was happening in the Roman Empire when certain things were said? That's how much work that I've done to understand context. And so I'm not a blind reader of the Bible. I don't read it like a literature book like most people would do. I read it within the context of how it existed, and so it doesn't faze me to like maybe 10 years ago I may have said, oh yeah, I'm more spiritual than Christian because I didn't want to be labeled, but I can own my Christianity with my full chest, and still I'm like, I'm spiritual, but I'm Christian, right? And I'm Christian, and you will not kick me out, of what you believe Christianity is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Makes sense. I can relate to that. So let's talk about criterium a little bit, because that's what you're building, right? I guess I have two questions, and you can answer both of them. One of them is obviously I want to understand a bit more about the why,
Okay.
and where you guys are going. The second part of it is you've been a creator for a while, right? Being a creator is very popular now, but you've been creating content for a long time, right? Before the creator economy became
20
a thing.
plus years.
Yeah. And that has shown, obviously, like the growth and everything. And so that tells me, obviously, that you know a few things about what it takes to be a creator that is successful in a way where it affects whatever outcome that you want, right? I want to learn some of those things that you have learned in the journey as a creator. And then obviously I want to also learn about like, why do you need this community, or why did you decide to do this community as an outlet?
So first of all, I believe like there's a gap between creator potential and creator realization, right? Of course, on the African continent, like we're far behind in terms of just creating like the infrastructure for creators to really thrive, right? In comparison, for example, with the Western world. What we're seeing a lot of is people are building like distribution channels, people are building monetization tools. And while those are very significant and important parts of the ecosystem, right? Because they're important infrastructure, right? To be able to build the ecosystem. But I still believe like there's a huge gap in education, in creator education. Like, yes, I have the platforms, but I'm not even using the platforms properly because I don't know how to use the platforms properly. So it doesn't matter how many monetization tools you give me. It doesn't matter how many distribution channels you give me. I don't even know how to create in a way that is sustainable. I don't know how to create visibility, I don't understand the money. I don't understand what is intellectual property, The reason why creators don't monetize is not necessarily because the channels don't exist. Sometimes it's limiting beliefs. Sometimes it's not just being afraid and not really understanding the dynamics of how to get there. Sometimes it's just not having the practical steps, right, to be able to create something that is valuable, right? So sometimes people are creating for vibes, not value. And so Criterium exists to basically be that bridge between creator potential and realization, right? And we're doing that through our media platform. We're doing that through education, with the workshops, master classes, and things that we're building. We're also doing that through community. And the reason for the community aspect of it is that I truly believe that we create our best work when we're creating community and not just in silos, right? When you're siloing things out, you're zoomed in and so focused on, again, I'm trying to create this thing and I'm feeling the struggles of that creation. I'm feeling like I'm not good enough. I'm going through the doubts and things like that. And because you're so zoomed in and focused, you don't realize that everyone's experiencing very similar, right? And community helps you to be able to lean into that place where you feel like I belong, not because I'm with people who are extremely successful alone, but I'm also with people who are going through similar struggles. I'm with people who, in fact, community also helps you to solve some problems faster, because then I can have a conversation with you and you tell me what you're building and I'm like, oh, that's great, right? And I'm like, this is how what I'm building can plug into what you're building, and it just moves us faster towards success, right? So, and these are struggles that I've experienced. So I always say that with Creatorium, we're creators building for creators is different, right? When external people are building for like now, tech founders are building for creators, and that's fine. It's a money play, right? But when creators are building for creators, we know the struggles of that. We talked earlier about how I have done so many different things, right? I've worked in talent management. I've managed creators, right? I know what that looks like. I've worked on the brand side. I've managed huge brand budgets. I know what it takes to get those brand budgets, right? So I feel like I've experienced the 360, right, of what a creator needs to be able to make it, right, highly successfully. And we're talking about, the first article I wrote on the creator economy was in 2011. And I called it Africa's creator economy, right? And this was before the buzzword. It's now a buzzword. So it's something that I'm highly and deeply passionate about. I'm really passionate about creators realizing that they can make money from their creativity and they can build sustainably, and they can scale, right? Like, especially as African creators, I just think that there's so much. I'm tired of potential. I'm tired of, they have potential, you have potential, the creative industry has potential. Everywhere you go, everyone says, oh, I'm tired of it. Can we just move from potential to realization, And I'm blessed to be in a position, right, to be able to bridge that. And to be able to speak both languages, because I can speak to the business side and I can also speak to the creator side, and that's what we're doing with Creatoria.
Tell me a bit of some of the things that you've learned about being a successful creator.
Some things I've learned. First of all, I would say that you have to be very clear on the things that you can and cannot do. Some creators are trying to do it all. For example, you may be really good at the creative process, but you don't really understand the business side of things. And in those situations, instead of forcing yourself into understanding, you should have basic understanding. So let me say that. Yeah, that one is very important. Every creator should have basic understanding. But instead of forcing yourself into, I have to be the one monetizing this, right? Just being able to collaborate and team up. I don't think that we push collaboration enough. I think that's one of our biggest struggles on the continent, and not just in the creative industry, in every industry. It's like collaboration is not in our genes.
Everybody wants to do it alone.
Everyone wants to do it alone. And we even see it in the way that our creator economy is set up, where the talents are priority, and we forget the ecosystem that is actually building up the talent, right? There's always a star. So you look at a top artist and you're like, this is a star, and you just build around the star. But then there's people who make that star, and we deprioritize them in our storytelling, right? So you never hear about the songwriter. You hear about one or two producers. They're lucky, right? You know what I mean? You'll never hear about, the people who are behind the camera. We don't really tell their stories, right? Anyways, so back to, the other things I've learned. So one is definitely learning how to collaborate better, and figuring out what your strengths are and what you can do, hire for that, right? Another thing is how you present, we call it packaging here, and people think packaging, you've worked in the brand space, so you know how these things are, but, people think packaging is just needs to look nice, but I think being very clear about what your promise is as a brand, and learning how to communicate that promise, deliver that promise, and then communicate that you've kept that promise. I don't think a lot of people understand that, brand strategy positioning is a key part of being a creator. You're not just, especially when you're now moving from creating for just the sake of creating to creating, something that you want to be monetizable, right? It does require you to pause and actually start to now strategically position what it is that you're creating. So 100% that. And even that, again, culturally, we're not really wired to shout our stories at the top of our lungs. Sure. We're not. You grow up in an environment that is you're doing too much, you're shouting too much. Are you the only one? Not only you are cackle. Right? The person who comes first in class is bullied all the time. I beg, you think you're so much better than everybody else. So we kind of always try to, it's like a false humility, And the reason I say it's a false humility is because
we're not really humble people.
Internally, you're not humble, but you're forming humble Smith, So yeah, like just, people learning. I've definitely learned to tell my own story and tell it powerfully and confidently, for sure. That's something that's important to me. And I've learned to value my work as a creative, because creativity is not always valued. And if you leave it to other people, they may not value it, right? Because there are a lot of things that are intangible in that process, right? If you're an ideator, for example, people are like, it's not just an idea. It must have come to you in like 2 seconds. Yeah, but it didn't come to you in 2 seconds. So realizing that everything that you do is highly valuable, the same way that a doctor would work, the same way an investment banker would work, thinking your office is your mental, your office is your mind. So that thinking is monetizable. I've learned that, I've made money from thinking, from thinking for other people, because they don't want to think, or they don't think in a particular way, so yeah.
What I like about your answer is you answer the question from a very broad perspective, where the question I asked could have been interpreted as just content creator as per social media, but you managed to answer it from like an institutional perspective, where if you're thinking about yourself as a creator, it's not really whether I am making TikTok videos or whether I'm an artist or whether 100%. I'm an actor. It's as long as you're creating, it's sort of like thinking about the value chain, 100%. How you can be consistent and then be able to like monetize and attribute value to it. I thought that was very...
Yeah, with Creatorium, we're also very particular about defining what a creator means, right? Because we don't define it as content creation, right? Content creation is one aspect of being a creator. So for example, primary audience might be people who work and operate in the creative industry, but our secondary audience is actually people who don't work in the creative industry, but have creative pursuits. So you can be a doctor who's also a poet, right? And you might have spent the majority of your educational background, your work background focused on the medical profession, but you need guidance to be able to help with your poetic expression, right? And you come to Creatorium, and Creatorium helps you do that, right? Through the different platforms that we have. So we're not just focused on the creative industry. We're focused on anyone who's creating and building something.
What's it like being a mom?
We went from here to there. I love it.
I need to keep you on your toes.
Being a mom. It's a beautiful experience. It also is like a challenging experience. I'm growing by the day. As my kid is growing, I'm growing. Now? He's 11.
Oh wow, he's growing.
Yeah, he's 11, but he's like an 11 teenager, right? So yeah, I think it's beautiful. I think just kind of watching another human being just kind of like evolve into their own person and trying not to constrain them into what I believe that they should be or how I believe that they should be has been a wonderful experience for me. Sometimes I just say to God, I'm like, I feel like you gave me this child to test me in so many different ways, because so I grew up, I'm the child who played multiple music instruments, did art, did all these different things in structured ways, right? So I had classes, whether in school or tutors at home and things like that. My son, right, is, in fact, one day I had to sit him down and I said, all the moms, they go to swimming class, they go to football, they go to, you don't do anyone. What's going on here? And that was in the earlier days, right? Like maybe like when he was like 6 or so, I was trying to force him to be like, go here, do these different things. And I just realized at some point that he's just his own person. And it's so interesting because now a lot of the things that I worried about, he's doing. So now he's playing multiple instruments. He plays it off ear, right? He'll go from he plays the trumpet. So he'll play the trumpet to drums. He'll do a keyboard, right? He'll play them all at the same time. But he never took structured lessons, right? He came into it in his own way at his own time, and then he watches his YouTube videos and everything, and he creates, right? He's also a STEM kid, So he's a full-on science technology boy, right? In fact, he has a YouTube channel where he only talks about like tech stuff. Yesterday, he came to me and he was like, "Oh, mommy, I'm going to go and record my next episode." And I was like, "Oh, what's your next episode on?" And he was like, "Oh, I want to record an episode." He's like, "I'm going to be talking about like AI and how RAM has become expensive." Because I said, "Okay." Very proud of you, bro. So yeah, he's in his own space, at 11, and I just let him be. I'm not as attached anymore, right? I'm just like, do your thing, because I also just realized that I could spend all my energy and effort trying to make sure that he's top of his math class, and he's gonna wake up years from now and tell me that he wants to go to Japan to study design. I'm the parent who's going to be like, we're going to Japan, right? so yeah. So parenting has taught me a lot. You reflect a lot on so many things. Like even in the moments where I get upset, when I get upset at him for doing something, I reflect and I go back to sometimes I even go back to my own childhood. I'm like, you did what? So, there's some things that we may have forgotten now that we did. Like I used to steal my father's money. Now my kid would take one candy from my bag and I'm going crazy because I'm scared that the fact that you took that candy from my bag means that I don't want you to be a thief outside. And I'm so pressured and stressed, I'm like, why did you take it from my bag? You shouldn't have taken it, And then I'm like, but there was that time when you used to take 10 naira. For your mother's wallet. So there's some things that are just like, yes, they're values, yes, you want to shape them, but some things are just child-like, like letting your child be a child. Parenting is teaching me that as well, to just let my child be, a child, and guide him in the ways that I can, but not constrain him because of my own personal fears.
I imagine that sometimes watching your child grow and just be their own person can teach you about the kind of person you want to become. Because I say that because the example you gave was like, oh, I did this, so it's okay. I'm going to treat you differently or talk to you differently. Right. But that's back to like the parenting, right? But what are the things that it teaches you about yourself? Like, does it ever make you want to be like, maybe I should do this, or maybe I should think differently, like just for yourself, because like you have at least a small you.
Yeah. So in that regard, maybe what it teaches me about myself is it teaches me my humanity. Because they say that the people that you love the most are the people who get sometimes the worst parts of you. Yeah. Like your rage. Like my rage can show up in my kid. Like Illumina light of the world. Lights. And then my neighbors must be like, why is she screaming this house down? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and in those moments I have to pause and ask myself, like, why? So I'll ask the why, but I'll also be like, give yourself grace, you're human. Like, it's okay to be triggered right now in this moment about this particular thing. That's part of my humanity. I can't run away or hide away from it. So yeah, just learning that about myself, learning to give myself grace, learning that like there's nothing perfect about you. Like, as much as we can talk about all the greatness and all that stuff, like there's nothing perfect about me. I'm still going to give it to you. You know what I mean? Like, and it's so funny because we're talking about my kid, but even in the work space, when I used to run the agency, I used to walk into the office and I used to tell them that, please, if you know that you applied here because you saw light of the world, right? When I shout in the office, right? Don't be upset because like you will be triggered about certain things. You don't. Of course, I'm not. As much as I'm saying this, I'm not the leader who's like shouting all the time. No, but like it'll happen. And when it happens, that's my humanity. The point is, I can apologize for it, right? So even with my kid, I apologize for things. I've learned to apologize for things. I've learned to sit him down and say, because I can be in the middle of an argument with him, and midway into that argument, I realize he was right.
That must be very humbling.
And as a parent, or for most African parents, I would say, right, most, is you're already winning the argument. You're not going to back down. Like, I don't want to tell you that, you were right. But but because I know that, I don't want to leave him feeling as though again, that I don't want him to internalize that what he knew was right. And, I'm going in this trajectory of not believing him. I have to come back and be like, yeah, you're correct. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're correct. That thing you said, or the way that you saw it, was because I might be looking for my headphones and I'm going, where's my headphones? The last time my headphones were used, it was with you, right? So where did you put it? I mean, that's an example, right? Is where did you put it? And he says, I actually didn't touch the headphones, and I'm like, but the way I remember it is that I remember that he was using it, right? Then I find the headphones in my drawer, and you're like, should I still pretend like these headphones are missing just to continue the argument? Do you get what I mean? But like, just being able to be like, my bad, I'm so sorry, I found them, but like, I didn't know. So yeah, that makes me pause and think about my humanity quite often.
Would you rather read a book or listen to a podcast?
Would I write podcast for sure? Yeah.
Yeah.
I like reading, but yeah, podcast. I like listening. I think because of the emotion of the listening, like I feel like the emotions come through. Like you can feel what the person is saying a little bit differently. It lands for me.
Would you rather do music, so like rap, or create content on Instagram? If you had to only choose one to do for the rest of your life.
Create content on Instagram. Create content on Instagram. You don't have a storyteller, so can't shut up. We have to keep telling the stories, yeah.
Is there any part of your story, any chapter that you might want to go back and just rewrite, just annotate?
University.
Why?
Yeah. I would have done a law degree.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I would have done a law degree.
What did you study?
Economics.
Okay.
I studied my actual degree is in economics, but I did a minor in entrepreneurship because I was in university at a time when entrepreneurship had just become a major and a minor in the US. So I did entrepreneurship. But I think inside of me, I'm a lawyer.
You like to argue?
No, it's not arguing. It's that I like to advocate for people. And even though, yes, I still feel like I do a lot of things that lawyers do. No disrespect to lawyers, because now they'll throw me and be like, you don't have a law degree, you cannot say that. Yeah, like whether it's reviewing contracts, whether it's writing contracts, like I'm really good at those things, right? I catch what people don't catch, and I think about things very holistically, right? I can think through, before you've been sued, I can think through the things that can get you sued, right? And so now as I advocate for creators, right, like there's a lot that I want to do in intellectual property that is still going to be done, just not done by me personally.
Do you think you would have practiced?
Intellectual property law, yes, in the creative industry, for sure. I see so many people being exploited in many different ways, and I have the ability to help them not be exploited.
It's not too late.
No, it's late. I can't go to, no.
It's just a few years of law school.
It's not a few years.
By the time you're 45, degree.
Bro, it's late. I'll outsource it. It's okay. I've accepted that.
Are you saying,
outsource it.
So there are dreams that we have that there's a point in your life when it's too late?
Yes. That's exactly what I'm saying. like it's not happening, man. It's not happening. I considered, I was like, man, I should have just done them simultaneously. Like I should have just done them simultaneously, and then I would have done like a JD MBA after school, and things like that. But it doesn't, so let me say it this way, it doesn't limit my capacity in any way, right? So I'm not regretful, I just think it would have been a great addition.
Yeah.
That's it,
Makes sense.
But, and law is not, if it was like some other degree, I could still go and pursue it. Law is not something that, yeah.
You're going to go all the way. I feel
You have
that
to really do it.
if creativity was a person, how would you describe them?
I would describe them as curious, filled with curiosity, childlike, whimsical, playful, doesn't take the world extremely seriously, problem solver, looks for what's not working and tries to creatively figure out how to fix it, inclusive, diverse.
You have many descriptions for it. Do you think
Yeah.
that this person would be a lover or a teacher?
Both.
Pick one, this or that.
Both. A lover.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lover, for sure. Because you can teach through love, through your actions.
So you're really picking both. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you rather teach what you know or just keep learning?
I'd rather teach what I know. Yeah. I'm committed to lifelong learning as a person, but I also think that there's such thing as overlearning without passing it down that is also deep-seated in fear. There's some people that stay learning because they're afraid to do other things. So yeah.
That's a good answer. Do you think your answer would have been different like 15 years ago? Like, do you think this is I'm 40 now answer?
Not necessarily, because I've always, one of my biggest principles is each one teach one, right? Like I've always believed in passing knowledge. And I've always believed that you don't have to be like extremely qualified in order to share where you're at. The main thing is you have to be open to being honest about where you're at. So I don't advocate for people who teach what they do not know. Teach what you do know. And then the world just becomes better. Like that, again, that's how you elevate human consciousness, is by passing it down, not by storing it. You can be a well of wisdom that is not wisdom in anybody.
True.
Like,
There's no
people
impact.
like that who are like, they're well of wisdom, but I can't see your trail.
Yeah. What's one piece of advice, one piece of creative advice that you think people say a lot, but you actually think the opposite of? Like maybe you think it's harmful, or it's just wrong.
Stick to one thing.
Yeah. I should have seen that coming.
The specialists don't like me because I'd be like, everybody should be a generalist. The idea of sticking to one thing has crippled so many people's creative paths and just expression of themselves. I think we've created a lot of robotic creatives that look fulfilled on the outside but are suffering internally, because of the fear of just what will people say, how would I be perceived, and sticking to one thing can become a comfort zone. And we're just all we're all just born with multi-purpose, multi-passions. And again, I'm not saying pursue everything at the same pace with the same intensity. No. Okay? But I think everybody should give themselves a chance in their lives to try things that they've always wanted to try. And again, like we say, fail fast if you have to, right? But I think I want to know what it's like to go on the golf course and hit, maybe I'm not going to be great at it, but maybe I'm going to be like Tiger Woods level great.
Yeah.
But I'll never know if I never try, right? Maybe you'll be good at art. Maybe you don't know because you've not bought a bunch of canvas and painted in your bedroom. And maybe you'll judge it from a particular point of view when you do paint in your bedroom, because you'll be like, this looks like crap. And maybe you'll put it out and somebody will offer you $20,000 for it. I'm just saying, right? You don't know because maybe you've not done it, So yeah, just allowing ourselves to just multi-express, man. Like, I'm not a huge fan of titles. I actually sometimes cringe when I'm called founder, Not because I don't appreciate where that's coming from, but I just never want to be in a place where I'm boxed into a founder role. So therefore, I feel like I have to express in a particular way. I have to perform in a particular way. Like, you invite me on your podcast and I have to read like 20 pages because I don't want to come here and sound like I don't know anything about the investor space. I don't know. Like, come and beat me. I'm the first founder that doesn't know the percentage, what GDP means. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why do I ever want to express and create in a world where I'm suffering because of that expression and that creativity? I don't want it. So yeah, more people shouldn't want it.
Has your definition or anything about how you think about purpose changed? Like, is there a specific way that you might have thought about purpose like 5-10 years ago and you're like, yeah, now I changed my mind about that, think differently?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, in my earlier days, I used to think that we can only serve one single purpose, and that purpose was really about like, you know, where you're going and like destiny and fate and those things. And for me now, purpose is service. You know, purpose is who's going to benefit as a result of my existence in this world. Purpose is I serve multi-purposes in different people's lives. The purpose I serve in my friend's life is not the same purpose I serve in my mother's life or in my child's life or in my colleague's life or in my co-founder's life, right? You serve different purposes at different points in time. Sometimes your purpose is to shorten the journey for somebody else. You know, I might have, for example, you know, people on my co-founders team that would never have thought they would have been my co-founder, but it can shorten, my journey can shorten the journey for them, right? In that same light, I can have a friend who the purpose I serve in their life is to just be a listener. And all I do is just listen to them, whether they're ranting, whether they're going through stuff, and I can hold space, you know.
So purpose is not one-dimensional.
It's not one-dimensional.
Shows up in different forms.
Yeah, and everybody's going to pick from it what they want. Like, you can sit down and tell a story about how I served the purpose in your life in a particular season of your life, right? I didn't actively try to do that. You know what I mean? Like, just simply by being, right? It did that for you. So that's the purpose it served for you. That's not going to be the same story that other people have. They'll have different stories of how me living purposefully, you know, worked for them or, you know, inspired them in different ways.
My last question for you. Is there any question that you would have liked me to ask you that I didn't? Is there anything else that you would have wanted to share that we didn't touch?
Is there anything I would like you to ask other than, like, you know, Adaora, what do you feel like eating this afternoon?
Even me, I want to be asked that question.
That's a nice question to ask. No, I actually think you're an amazing host. You know, it's
Thank you.
No, you are. Take it, hold the flowers, you know, because I think like hosting is not just about asking the questions, it's about seeing people. You have to it's about holding space. You have to hold space for the responses. You have to see people, you have to listen to them, you have to let them land their thoughts. You don't find that a lot. You find a lot of platforms, yes, but not a lot of good hosts. So yeah,
I'll take it.
You're a good host, so take it.
Thank you.
I think you asked all the questions. So thank you.
That's awesome.
Well done.
Thank you for sitting down with me. I've wanted to do this for a while, and just mostly because I've obviously watched you for a long time. Now that we think about it, I'm like, it's probably been the last 9 or 10 years of my life. Which is, wow, we're all getting old.
Very
but I'm
cool.
still a baby girl. But like, there's
Always.
I think when I just first moved and my career was just beginning,
Yeah.
I can't remember how I found you, but they're just very formative. And I've seen you go through like
Thank
the
you.
different phases and different parts, and I've watched and I'm like, this is fantastic. I want to have a conversation that
Yeah.
gives me some inside gist that I don't know.
So we've done it.
Yeah, we have.
And you've asked all your inside gist questions.
Yes. Well, there's one I decided not to ask on camera, but yeah. So
It's
maybe
all
I'll see you
good.
again under 10 years. But thank you
It's
so
all
much for
good.
sitting with me.
Thank you.
It's great to like see the authenticity and the same theme that I sort of like feel or felt the very first times that I come across you, still the same thing that you have and that you hold today. And there's not a lot of people that can say that. So
Thank
you are definitely like shining light.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you. I
sitting with me.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video to the end. This is Farron's Corner representing me. Make sure you don't leave this channel without subscribing, and I'll see you on the next episode. Peace out.